All right, good evening again. Um, those who are here in the room already heard me mention this, but for those who are live with us, or maybe not so live in the future, but watching this in archives, this is new for us. We are experimenting a little bit. We want to include you all in what's going on here tonight, and so we're working hard. I'm sorry we're a few minutes late in doing that. To make sure we are good, we're going to do just a couple little tests. And so this is how I sound. Is this too loud for you all? Okay. Kevin, try it.
All right, how about me?
Aaron, you like that?
Okay?
All right, and finally.
Hi, can everybody hear me? Up? I got one up. How about that?
All right, we're good?
Okay.
All right, so Aaron says we're good. He says we are live, and you all are here, and this is the end of an epic journey. And so thank you so much for being here. This was so much work and effort in the lead up to it. It put our lives on hold for 10 days, as you might imagine, plus probably one or two on either end. Actually, it took me 7 days to recover from jet lag. Like, it was embarrassing.
I'm older than you, so...
Yeah, I know. Logan's the youngin' in the group. But you all have been invested from the beginning, and that's why we wanted to do this. It wasn't a trip just for us. We're not going to spend thousands of dollars to go to Thailand just for us. That is a waste of money. We'd sooner donate that to the Thailand Methodist Mission, to be honest, and not airlines. But it was still worth it for us to go, and that's really what this evening is going to be about, is why did we do it the way that we did? What did we do? And what difference is it going to make? And so as we debated this on the flights back and in the days as we recovered, we decided that what we would do, thanks to a lot of time commitment by Kevin and Brandy, who's in the back and running the slideshow, they took what was probably way too many photos that every team member dumped in a single folder, and they widowed it down into a cohesive story. And so we're going to go photo by photo. Some we'll dwell on, some we won't, but we'll use them to kind of tell the story and maybe jog our memory a time or two. And so that's our plan. I am planning to do that in 45 minutes, and I'm speaking straight to you two right here. And so there's the clock. It's back there. This is preaching advice. That's where the clock is. Church people find that funny. And what that'll do, since we started late, we will go late if you have to be elsewhere. By no means feel hesitation to leave. But what we'll do is take the last 15 minutes and answer any questions that you all have. And so I'm going to ask it for the sake of time. If you have a question, hold on to it. Keep it there in your head, or write it down if you got pen and paper. We might answer it as we go, and that'll save us time. And I'm just suspecting that we're going to, by we, I mostly mean me, going to want to talk a lot.
Yeah.
So, really? We don't need to get into the bonding that took place over the trip. We don't need to share that. And so, all right, with that, are we ready? Brandy, you ready? Aaron's still not freaking out. That's a good sign. All right, I'm going to stand. I should stand over here with you all. All right, first picture. What is it? What do we got, Brandy? Mouse over to it should just be the right arrow button. It's not. Okay. Can you drag the mouse over here and click on the screen? There you go. There's mouse click. Now try it. Oop, not that button. Go over one. This part we did test. There we go. Shush, 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 shush. There we go. Don't think I can't hear you. Let me talk a little bit. Let me talk about this photo a little bit, because this is our team, and it's important for you to understand who was on it and why they were on it. Because you do see the three of us. I'm the one that took the photo. Logan's right behind me, and Kevin, you're hiding. Where are you hiding? Kevin isn't. Kevin's not looking at the camera, I think. But in this group, so you have 3 people from Somerset, Kentucky. You have John and Lolita Cowles and their children's pastor, somewhere on here, coming in from Madisonville. Some of you know John Cowles. He grew up in Science Hill. His family still lives there. They're amazing people. You have 2 people from State Street and Bowling Green. You have 1 in the back from Owensboro. You have 1, 2, 3 from Henderson. You have 1 from North Carolina. We can't explain her. She just wanted to go on a trip and managed to find us somehow. And then finally, you have 1 from the south end of Louisville. So you'll notice no more than 3 people from any given church. And I've hopefully talked a little bit about this so you understand why that is. Because the more people that go from a single church, the more you're paying airlines, and actually the less impact you're then able to have. Right? Because we're not going there because we can do amazing things on our own. You're going to find out just how inept we are, actually, as the evening goes on. We were there to encourage, which is the one thing we can do. We were there to learn. And it does not take a whole lot of people from a single church to do both those things. So 3 was the max. But what that did is let all those people that you see up there from all those different places that I listed all have this experience of seeing what's going on, of offering encouragement, and of learning, and then all going back to their own churches and doing something probably very similar to what we're doing here tonight. The churches that these pastors and laity went back to have been hearing about Thailand the last few weeks, just like you all have from the pulpit. And I'm willing to bet that most of them have an event really similar to this one, where the whole congregation can really walk through it in detail if they want to. That is on purpose. And if I may take a moment, this is why being a Methodist is so cool, because we are connectional, right? I know John because I see John a couple times a year at annual conference and other events. I know Jim Woodford, who's the tall guy in the back. He was my mentor my first year of residency. Okay? He's an ordained elder. I know Kim because she's from a friend's church before she got moved, and so I know her church. I know her people. I got to meet her personally, but I knew where she was coming from, right? And so because we are Methodists, because we are connectional, we're able to form these relationships just week in and week out, and then when something comes up like this, you can get all the right people you need. You can send them out, just a few from each church, and yet still have a full team who can do pretty amazing things. Is there anything either of you two want to speak to about this photo or about that? I wanted to start with that just so we know what we're talking about. All right. Go for it.
This is kind of a neat thing that before you go into a church or a lot of the people's houses, it's customary there to take your shoes off. So they have these catch areas, and that's actually outside the first blessing home in the first church in Pattaya that we went to.
This is Life Center Church in Pattaya. So we flew into Bangkok. We'll put a map up at the very end. If you have a phone and want to pull up one, you can try and follow along. I don't recommend it. But Bangkok's about an hour away from Pattaya. Either of you want to say why we went to Pattaya first and spend a good deal of time there?
Okay, so in Thailand, one of the reasons that our Methodist mission is over there is because it's a high child trafficking area for not only drugs but sex trafficking. Usually they start them off, they say, at 8 or 9 or even younger drugs, and then use them as drug mules, and then the children are then, sold or given into the sex trade. And sometimes it's our own families that are doing that. They get in what they consider dire straits, and they sell their daughters, and sometimes they're trying to work and do what's right, and there's groups that come in and take these children. They prey on them. And Pattaya is a huge trafficking area. They get them from all over Thailand, but most of them end up, there's what they call a walking street. It's 5 miles long and just like a regular street, and on each side of the street there's not supposed to be underage, but they're there. And it really was a really dark, depressing place, but it was packed, and we only went for maybe the first quarter mile, and so there was 5 miles of this, which was kind of mind-blowing.
And right down the street from this church as well, on the right-hand side, there was actually it was a bar, but behind it there were several doors that you could go into if you fancied one of the bartenders or the workers, and you could pay a little bit more money to go behind closed doors with them.
Yeah, sorry, this is starting dark early. There'll be elephants at the end. It's important to realize, so Thailand is 1% Christian. Most, do you remember a percentage? The vast majority of those Christians are in the north. Chiang Mai, where we'll end our trip, all that stretch. They call it the Bible Belt of Thailand, which it's true that most of them live there, but again, 1% Christian, so still a very small minority. Thailand Methodist Mission, they do work up there. They have partners up there. That's not where they tend to go. That's not where they put their blessing homes. That's not where they put their churches. They want to go where the need is. And so they went to Pattaya, which is one of the probably most unfriendly places you could go. It's all about business and not a Christian business. And so that's where they go. That's where they want to be. And the blessing homes, the concept behind the blessing homes, it's a daycare where kids can be taken care of, which frees the adults to work and to give them Christian education. It also just gets them off the street. That's the easiest way to find a child, is find them on the street. Say, hey, take me to your mom and dad. I got a proposition for them. And if they're that depressed economically, I can't imagine doing this, but I have to. You know, if my family was absolutely destitute and my daughter could provide a way for us to survive, I have to imagine it. And I hate to say that, but that's the reality that the Thailand Methodist Mission is facing. Is a really thriving business and very in-need families. And that's what they have to combat. So this is Life Center Church and the Blessing Home in Pattaya. You want to?
Each morning, we, as a group, got together and we did a small devotional, and we did this again in the evening to just kind of keep us grounded and you know, making sure that Christ was in what we were doing. So this was starting off our first day.
Yes, and each one was 5 to 10 minutes, just really based on whatever it was that we felt the need to talk about and discuss. And I would say every single one was eye-opening and meant a lot to me.
This is the hotel in Pattaya that we stayed at. We actually were able to stay at really nice places because it's really cheap. I don't know what photos Kevin included here, but you're going to see some photos of some really nice hotels. You're going to think, what in the world were you doing, people? Super cheap. Why not?
And I will say with these hotels, I'll get to the shrine here. The thing that has haunted me the most is that you can't use the toilet paper and flush it down the toilet.
We're going there already.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll
slide for that.
There is a okay. You want to hold off on that?
So
Okay.
I'll hold off on my.
You're going to hear
scarring.
so much about toilets. Oh my gosh. You want to talk about spirit houses?
Sure. Yeah.
Well,
So,
that was. We'll get to the toilets later. That have nothing to do with the spirit houses.
yeah. So it's just scars, memories coming back.
Uh-huh.
So this is a spirit house, or some people may call it a shrine, but these are scattered throughout Thailand, and this is a place where you can go and you can pay your respects to your religion. And like we mentioned, these aren't high Christian places. So ideally, the bigger the shrine, the more that you're paying your debts off. And so every hotel, every house, you go down the street, every few hundred feet, there's one of these for you to be able to pay your respects.
It's interesting. Spirit houses were not a part of Buddhism. They actually came elsewhere, and actually they were kind of adopted into the whole culture of Thailand and kind of grafted in, which if you're religion geek the way I am, I find that incredibly fascinating. So this isn't technically a part of Buddhism, but it's something that became deeply meaningful to the people of Thailand. And so like Logan said, you see it every house. Houses that are destitute and run down and falling apart will still have a really ornate spirit house. This is back at the Pattaya Blessing Home and Church, working with the Christians there. This is the hotel. I think, are we arriving in this?
I think this is where we're arriving,
Okay.
and it's just a walk over to the Life Center there in Pattaya.
No more crying, and there will be no more crying, and there will be no more crying.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, let's go here. Let's not have to listen to me twice over. So they asked, it was interesting. While we were at the Pattaya Church and Blessing Home, there was space. We were doing a lot of learning there. It was kind of like a home base. But they wanted us to teach them something that they could really benefit from, something that they either didn't know or hadn't got before. And so the Morrisseys kind of said, well, they're coming in a couple weeks. What would be helpful to you? And they said, we want to learn about positive thinking, which I found interesting. I can't explain it. Don't ask me to explain it. But that's what they wanted. And so you'll be on equal footing with me to try and figure out why that request, why that topic. But John Cowles and I teamed up and basically tried, we taught from Revelation, where you heard me say no more crying. That's Revelation. We said that is where positive thinking comes from, is by knowing the end of the story and being able to bear all things and even rejoice in all things because we know the end, which I thought was great for totally making it up on the spot. And then this is our team again at the church. I think I pretty well hit everybody.
Yeah, you can see up here, this is...
You have a laser pointer? Where were you hiding that?
I've been using it.
I missed it. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
So this is Mike Morrissey, who is the founder of TMM, and his wife Sherry, who is not...
Taking the picture, I think.
Yeah, I think she's taking the picture, which she was the speaker right after Chris with the little clip. And you know they could translate for us. Both of them spoke Thai, as well as some other people. And if you want to be a part of TMM, they require you to go. Is it a semester or a year?
It's a year.
It's a year. A year of learning the language before you can even begin the ministering process.
You'll meet. There are a number of long-term missionaries, and hopefully we'll see them all. The Morrisseys are based primarily out of Pattaya, and what are their names? Oh no, the younger couple. Thank you. Allie and David are younger couple, kind of between the two of us, upper 20s.
They're 28.
Oh, okay, there we go. And they felt a call, and so they've gone through that. They've only been there a year, but they're not looking to leave. They're in fact candidates. One day, hopefully far down the road, when the Morrisseys are ready to pass the baton, Allie David would be some natural choices, and so we'll see. We don't know. We're not given promises of any kind, and we're not told the future, but that's their level of commitment here.
Yeah, we spoke to them pretty in depth and even asked them about children, since they're a young couple, and they said they intended on raising their children there, so they plan on. And their story, they're not they're lay people. He was an engineer and she was a nurse, so they went on a mission trip and just felt the call to do that, and they're dedicated to that, and that's the kind of people that they need over there. So.
Oh, so we've driven now quite a ways, about 8 hours, I think it was, to get to, this is Blessing Home Isan, Blessing Home for Special Needs Kids. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Okay. Who wants to talk about that?
So, like Chris was saying, this is a special needs home, which by the way, all the toys and donations that you guys donated, this is where it went. And there were three ladies that were running this home. I don't think.
Go back to that one. These are other places. There you go.
And I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, they didn't really come from a Christian background necessarily. Their primary focus was actually like teaching and development or psychology?
Well, so the two women, this is their retirement. So they're long-term missionaries. This is how they've devoted their retirement. Not just, they are Christian, but they're not just providing, this is not combating human trafficking. So this has a different focus. And it's to provide care for special needs kids, which is rare in Thailand. Part of that Buddhist theology, of earning merit to pay off past sins. It's really easy to say, well, that's why you are the way you are, is to pay off something you did in a previous life, and so why help you too much? And so what they do is partly provide for kids that other people won't, but they also are incredible advocates. And so they are in schools, they're working with administrations, trying to convince them that they need to be providing more and more and more resources and programs for special needs kids within the schools themselves. and they've actually, I was personally blown away at the inroads they had managed to make against the culture that I described. And so they look beyond the walls of their blessing home for sure. Do you want to say anything about?
I think there'll be a photo of them a little later on. I think we probably got this one a little out of space with the other ones, but lost my train of thought there.
This is where Logan gave all of our game supplies in addition to the micro toys away. So that was fun.
Oh yeah, and one of the things that come up.
I'm sorry, I had to.
Oh, you're fine.
Foreigners are not easily allowed to own property there, so they've worked with some of the local. Actually, have a lady in training that they're hoping maybe will help take this over, and they've bought property, through her, so that they find ways around the laws of the land.
You'll see a theme, right? Missionary work is first, but the next generation is Thai leadership as fast as possible. You're going to see that repeated. All right, we can. They fed us children's food for the most part because it wasn't spicy. So they treated us like children at the table, but it was still delicious. This is back in Pattaya. Yeah, prayer welcome. Where were we?
I think we're still.
That's not Pattaya. I think we're in. So either you want to talk about prayer and Buddhism and all that? Do you remember what I'm talking about? Okay, so again, get back to the basic tenet of Buddhism in Thailand is you're paying off merit. Like it's you don't come in for weekly worship. There are spiritual practices that are woven into this, but it's really just do good things so you can one day pay off that debt and move on in your afterlife. And so part of that is if you want to be prayed for, you pay for it. Go to a temple, find a priest, pay him a little bit. They'll pray for you, and the money you give obviously offsets your debt. And so prayers are expensive. Literally, they cost money in Thai Buddhism, which actually created a really unique opportunity for Christians. Because we'll pray for you for free. In fact, we'll get in a group, walk around a neighborhood, and pray as we go, which no one's going to understand who sees us out their window. But if they were to meet one of the local Christians in the areas that we are and ask, what was this group doing? Perfect opportunity to say, well, actually, they were praying for you, and they didn't charge you a thing for it. And so these prayer walks, they're fairly recent in the Thailand Methodist Mission, but they've kind of taken off because of how valued they are. They believe in the power of prayer probably more than we do, to be honest, because for them it's so precious. But we Christians, we offer it for free. And so, yeah, really cool. That's what you get from going in and really meshing yourself in culture for a while. You start to pick up, okay, where's the need? Where's the opportunity? What would help these people understand what we're talking about? Rather than just going in with something we might use here in a Western culture to talk about faith. So, prayer walks, man. That's the stained glass of our church.
And I would say that with the prayer, and as far as having church sermons go, to me they're significantly different. I would say, for one, about the first 50 minutes to an hour is all song. It's just all song, all hallelujah, praising, and then you might have a 5-minute break where most of the time they would just get and chit chat like we do at the end of the service, at least in the morning service. And then after that, we would do an hour of worship as well. And most of the time, that would run over. So typically, we were closer to 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I wasn't used to that. But, the reason it went that long, which I was fine with, is just because they were so invested in Jesus and the life of Christ. And they just love him.
I never want to hear any complaints again. Oh, this was your story. Go back. This was the home. I kept shared a story in the 9 and then forgot he was supposed to share it in the 11 too. But I shared it for you. So you want to That's right there.
Yeah, this lady here. She's 90 years old. She's a Thai Christian, but she didn't start out that way. She was dealing with alcoholism, which is very common there. You get in that desperate situation where you think you have to earn merit, and you're going to have to go through several lives to ever get, where you're wanting to be. Well, some of the Thai Christians that were taught by the missionaries that had turned to Jesus told her about Jesus, and then she gave her life to Jesus, and she started having the church in her house there up until, usually that's kind of a common theme, up until they get around 20 members, they'll have it in someone's house, they'll have church. So she completely dedicated her life to that, and they just recently have moved into the bigger church, and they keep expanding.
Very much like the early church in Scripture.
And that's Sherry right there.
Oh, yeah.
This is David. He's the one that we were talking about that was the engineer that came on last year. And then this person in the back, her name is May. She's actually the official translator for us during our trip. Did an awesome job. Actually speaks 3 or 4 languages as well. On top of just Thai and English, and one was a regional language. Was it Lana?
Isan, which I think is
Isan.
kind of a mixture of Laos and Burmese, maybe is.
Okay.
You can go on. Maybe. So now we've moved. This is another church and blessing home. Actually, the missionary here is the daughter of one of our Kentucky pastors, Shelby Gillespie. Her dad served in Ratcliffe and just recently retired. The primary focus here was on teaching English, and it was also the first day camp we did. So at multiple churches, we did do a brief afternoon, or in one case, morning and afternoon day camp. And our job was the easy stuff, really, the crafts and the games. Again, we had to improvise. We accidentally set our game supplies and left them at the Blessing Home Isan, and so we didn't have any supplies. And so I was trying to convince these ladies sitting on the floor cooking dinner to chop off the top of a water bottle so I could use it as a little dumpy thing on a relay game. And I was having, I had no translator, so that was a fun 15 minutes.
And
It turned out you'll see some pictures of the games. I think.
Oh yeah, it worked out well.
Yeah, and we're not just talking one of our props. We're talking every single prop that we had.
We kept a few
So-
balloons. We had a few balloons left that we used.
And then we lost those.
And then the kids found those. Oh, you got to hide that stuff from these kids. So let's keep going. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's
Good job.
That's the water bottle.
Good job.
Yeah, so basically the object of the game was you had to take the cut water bottle, you had to scoop it up, and then you had to dump it in the bigger bucket, which had a floating toy in it. And so the first one to get the toy to fall out of the bowl won. And the kids got really
They cheated.
Yeah, they cheated.
They cheated a lot.
They got really into it.
Yeah, toward the end they would throw the water in it.
Trying to knock it. It was creative.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this guy.
This is Teddy. He is the husband of May, the one that translated, and they traveled with us all across Thailand. And he does the youth ministry. I think is he based out of Pattaya as
I
well?
believe so, yes.
But he travels, and he has a really interesting slide that he goes through that shows the path to Christianity and how the kids it really works together. And people there are just phenomenal. May and him are just incredible people. I mean, they just really are.
This again, what I said before: first generation missionaries, second generation, as fast as you can, have Thai Christians proclaim the gospel for you. Because he helped put this. I'm pretty sure he helped put this together. This model. Yeah. It's a model that makes sense for people coming out of Buddhism because he came out of Buddhism, right? And so he's the one teaching it, right? We did the games, we did the crafts, but we had the Morrisseys. We had the other missionaries. Shelby was there. We had 5 missionaries and a team of pastors who could easily have stood up and talked through a translator. Every single time it was Teddy. Because we want a Thai church. We are partners with them, but we're not partners with missionaries so much. There's that element, but we're always partners with the Thai church. And so a Thai church, you can't call it that if it doesn't have Thai leadership, if it doesn't have Thai people in charge of where they're going and how they're doing things. They'll take Western practices, but they decide what to do with them. They actually opened their service with the Beatitudes.
I think we saw Teddy do this at 3 different places, and the kids were always, they were into it. They were following it all the way through.
It made sense. We didn't understand a word of it, but it made sense. But yeah, they've had their own practice. I actually meant to do that this Sunday morning for worship, is have us all say the Beatitudes to honor that. So maybe some other time. Let's keep going. Oh, those are the ladies. They chopped the water bottle for me. That's why I took a picture.
While they were making our food.
While they were making our food. So, okay, credit to them. We can keep going. They do. This is the food at that blessing home. Again, we ate well. Seriously. I talked about hospitality one Sunday. Like, they take that so seriously. If you come in, doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, they always had more than enough out there.
Team picture, same place. That's the front of, which one is this? I can't remember which church and blessing home this was called.
I can tell you all about it. I can't tell you the name.
It's interesting. So we started in Pattaya in as urban as you can get, right? That because of what they were trying to combat there. Here, we're in we're on the outskirts of what they consider to be a small town. They had to point out the small town to me, but that's for them. And then the next church, which we'll get to in a little bit, was very rural. Nothing, hardly any buildings within sight of them. And so, again, Thailand Methodist Mission, we want to target all these places, not just stick to one particular area.
I'm going to get a picture first. I know, I'm going to get a picture first. Yeah, I'm going to get a picture first. I know, I'm going to get a picture first. I know, I'm going to get a picture first. I know, I'm going to get a picture first. Yeah.
What was her name?
I don't know.
So the missionaries, they're actually adopted, formally adopted,
Yes.
special needs child, and that's who you saw the previous. If you want to go, can you go back for me? There. You can go up.
And they, they had us meal prepared, and then the kids that were staying there came down. We got to see them.
And this is a rice field, if I'm not mistaken. The reason that they grow rice there is just because of how quickly it grows and how many people it can feed. As far as caloric intake, it's 3 times better than wheat as far as how many people it can feed. So, they really try to, and it's cheap as well. So they're really trying their best to feed as many people for as cheap as possible. Yes.
Sure. The question was differentiating between types of rice, and I'm not going to answer because I don't know the answer. They did not consider it a meal if there was not rice. Like there was a story told where someone ordered pizza and they said that was great. When's the meal? I'm like, well, there wasn't rice. All right.
Tapioca.
That's tapioca.
It was one of the things that they grew, especially up around the Isan region.
Oh, here we go, Kevin. This was Uremai's room.
This was my picture that I took.
Oh, you took this one? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought this was ours.
If you notice, what is not there? Yeah.
Yeah. What do they use instead? Logan?
Yeah. This is just a little baggie. What?
There you go.
What this?
No. The
This?
bidet.
Dishwasher thing.
Oh, yes. So the dishwasher thing.
That's,
Um,
oh, that's perfect.
so
Oh, that's perfect.
this is kind of supposed to be acting as like is it a bidet? Is that how you
Bidet.
pronounce it?
Bidet. Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
So that's what you used, and this also was our shower. So this is where you took your shower.
Yep. So we stayed in some nice places. This was on the lower end of things. Still good quality, but definitely stretched us a little bit. They did have Kleenex that can double as paper towel out in the main area that you could take in with you and put in a bag and throw away. So good times. All right, let's move away from that. You want to? I
Yeah.
think there's a better. You get a
there's
better picture
another.
of the
You want to
floor?
go to the next photo?
There you go.
This is one of the members at the. Is it the Asan? The church. It was
It's
one
not
of them.
Isan. Isan was the special needs. It was the one where we were doing the games. So this is people that belong to that church.
Yeah, and this particular lady was showing us around her farm, and she actually raised the crickets, and she raised frogs, and they had rice. So they're very self-sustaining.
Also, there were these.
Oh yeah, and the silkworms.
Which you can see the silkworms down there.
So they wanted us to see how the Christians who belonged to the church, like what their lives were like. And so the woman, if you noticed, had a really nice floor, especially for the area. Like the rest, it kind of doesn't match. But she had gone through the financial training that the Thailand Methodist Mission offers to help people get out of debt, which is a big issue, and get on much more solid footing. And so she renovated her house, or at least the floor, and they often will point to that. Look what she did, because she took all this seriously. And so she's been a leader in that church for a good long while. That's the floor. So it's very nice. The silkworms were at a different member's house. And so they're trying to show us, again, what life is like. And silkworms and crickets, man. And rice. Did we need that one?
Yes.
Yep, that's
yes.
silkworms. This is the woman with the renovated floors property. Now we're back at. Oh, this is Blessing Home Isan. Okay, yeah, I'm wrong, Kevin. This is where we played the games, and you saw. No, go ahead. All right, now we're somewhere else. No, this was different. That was the long table at that one.
We went to like 7 different cities, so
I'm sorry.
forgive us that everything's a bit confusing.
So I talked about a rural church. This is that rural church, which is just right on a country road. Not a whole lot in sight, but they still gather and worship. And again, fed us great. And this is the infamous cricket.
You have two types of crickets here.
True. True.
Yes. Yeah, you've got type 1 here, which is kind of the softer cricket and spicy, and then this one is the crunchy cricket. Yes.
I love the crunchy crickets, but the legs have little barbs that do get stuck between your teeth.
Yeah.
I saved that just for this.
Now, a side note, fun fact from the food, we were actually the first Westerners to ever visit them. They had never been visited by somebody from the States, or really somebody of a lighter complexity. So some of the younger kids were kind of like looking at you like, huh. But they were so nice, and I mean, like Chris was saying, I mean, they fed us, and it was just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. They're common. I wouldn't call them a delicacy. Common snack food.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's keep. Yeah, more crickets. We had to keep as many photos as possible. Oh, the infamous videos. All right, let's see it. Let's see what these are. All right, here we go. Ready? All right, show it to the camera. What do you think? I don't know about those yet. All right. All right, let's see it. Let's see what these are. You gotta eat it. All right, here we go. Ready? What do you think? They're good? All right. All right, let's see it. Let's see. All right, let's see it. Let's see what these are. All right. All right, here we go. Ready? No. What do you think? Good? All right. All right, let's see. Oh, there's mine.
Hold on. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Yes, there it is. Protein. Yeah, good.
So you see the
Hold on. Oh, here we go.
You have Logan down here, you have Kevin in the middle, and then you got me up there.
Yeah, he's the cricket connoisseur.
This is the last church we went to back in Bangkok, isn't it? No, where?
No, this is where Shelby was, because remember there
Oh,
was glass.
right. Okay, we were doing games in the midst of this. So this is back at Isan, where we were doing games, and they're playing games too. Part of the day camp. We can keep going. We talked about Isan a lot.
Help them to prosper. May you 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 help them to prosper.
This is us praying for the woman Kevin talked about, 90-year-old woman and her family. Just praying blessings on them. Again, prayer
May you help
be
them to prosper.
incredibly
May you help them to
valued
prosper.
in
May
Thailand.
you
Go ahead,
help
keep
them
us
to
moving.
prosper.
Back at that home. There's that lady again. You went from person to person, just wanted to hold your hand. Yeah. Nice. Keep us moving. That's Isan. Very pretty. There's Teddy again teaching at Isan. There's crafts at Isan. Oh yeah, who wants to talk about
they
that?
like to throw the peace sign.
More games at Isan. All right, this is the inside of the rural church. So now we've advanced. We moved out into the country. This is where we had the crickets, but this is the same day camp. We basically ran the same day camp in 3 different places. 3 places? 3 places. Yeah. So this is the second one. Isan was the first, where we panicked with the games in a small town. Isan is the more. This one is the more rural one, and then the last one we'll get to is the last thing we did. Balloon toss, always a easy one. Saying goodbye to us as we leave the rural church. More balloon toss. That's the pastor, by the way.
And he got into it.
He got into this, man, tossing the balloon. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes, it does. This is worship at the rural church. Anything you all want to say about Thai worship here?
I love the way they worship. I mean, whether you can understand the language or not, you feel the spirit.
Mm-hmm. They danced for us, and then they invited us to dance. Did you include this video?
Yes,
Okay.
there's a
Let's-
dancing video.
Is it coming?
Yeah, it'll be coming up.
This is the youth doing their thing. Oh, here we go. Oh, this another team picture at the rural church.
And you noticed at the end of the video, we all put our hands together and we were all bowing towards everyone. Just because it's anytime you greet somebody or you want to say thank you, or at the end of a song, you just always put your hands together. You say, is it kap kung kap?
Depends on your gender. So endings of many words are gender specific. So for men, kap kung kap. For women, kap kung ka. And that's just universal greeting. But how far you bow shows respect. And so Thai people, they know that we have no idea what we're doing. And so they didn't ever judge us for like bowing the wrong way. But Thai people, social standing matters, wealth matters. There's very set social order. And so they know exactly how far to bow for who they are. So I tried to err on the side of just bow really low for everybody. I don't know about you two, but yeah, everywhere you went, kap kung kap. And you do it like if you're going down a row, you got to keep like you got every single person. Like give me handshaking any day. Like I can do that quick at the end of worship, but a lot of bowing it gets to. Where are we going next? Worshiping at the same church. They love taking pictures. Again, they hadn't had Westerners come and visit. This is something, it feels like you're not doing anything, but it mattered to them. That they are important enough that we would come visit them, which humbled us, but you got to play the role. And so you pose for pictures, you sit and smile for hours as best you can because you want them to know you really deeply care about them.
Chris said we had the dignitary experience, you know,
Yeah.
because everybody there, they really appreciated us being there.
Yep. We were more like visiting dignitaries than any other mission trip I've been on. That's basically what we were, to be honest. Same church. Aw. Aw. Let's keep going. Back at Easton, this is how they had the plant.
Yeah, that's a garden behind the church.
All right, Monkey Temple. It's Logan with the monkey. We took a lot of pictures. So this was on our way up north. I told you the trip started super depressing in the south because things are just, that's the reality they deal with. We traveled through small towns and country roads, visiting churches and blessing homes. When we got to the north, that's where if you want to do a family-friendly Thai vacation, go north. Right? Don't go to Pattaya. Don't walk that 5-mile strip. Go north. And so this is they kind of set aside a day for us in the north to kind of be like, all right, let's have all the fun, let's cram it in. And so the Monkey Temple was one of those. So we've probably got a lot of these. That's the actual Monkey Temple right there.
I heard that.
You can keep going through this if we see something. Again, temple's incredibly ornate because it's basic Buddhism that you pay off, or you earn merit, pay off sin price by giving to temples. And so temples are incredibly ornate. No, if you look at Christian churches, I mean, you saw the inside, it's very plain. A few banners hanging, and that was it. So
It is kind of hard on the children, though, because in schools they do teach Buddhism every day.
And you're required to walk in, bow to the Buddha, something. And they have to just play it very cool. There's no formal persecution. Don't ever hear me say that. Thailand is fine with Christians existing. It doesn't encourage it. Its culture is kind of geared to keep it from growing because it's so wed to Buddhism, but they're not actively persecuted, but you're going to run into a lot of social situations that feel very ostracizing, and the kids have it the hardest, I would say. Keep going.
Our Lord Jesus. Our Lord Jesus.
Praying back in the rural. Okay. Now we've moved. We're back in the north. One of the things that exists up there is a seminary. This is not the seminary. This is a resort. You could stay here for $15 a night. It's really nice. Like, I kind of want to.
I thought it was going to start seminary if that was seminary, but no, that was not.
So this is where they held their graduation. And so, again, visiting dignitary, right? These are local pastors who have gone through seminary, which I can tell you is a long slog. You can ask Zach about it. He's going through it right now. And now they're graduating, and they're being sent out to preach. And again, only 25% of counties in Thailand have a church of any denomination, Christian denomination. Forget Methodism, just any Christian church. 75% have nothing. And so these pastors are about to head out into some of the most isolating ministry settings you could possibly imagine. And so again, for us to be there, to sit through the, 3.5-hour long service, graduation ceremony?
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Which we did with smiles on our faces. That means the world to them, right? They're not going to get that kind of affirmation where they're going. And so for us just to be there, and there are 3 members of our team who had PhDs. I'm not one of them. And for that day, I was really glad I wasn't one of them. They had to sit up front and look out into the crowd the whole time. I got to sit in the back.
Yeah, and the whole thing was in Thai as well. So it wasn't just 3.5 hours of being like, okay, I know what this guy's saying. It's just we had no clue. Now, I will say that we sang a lot of songs, and there were actually a couple songs that I understood, I knew the rhythm to, that we sing here.
So talking about back to worship, so Thai Christians will often take a Western Christian song. The old hymns that you all know are really common. There's some more contemporary stuff thrown in there, just depending on the missionaries. But it's really hard to translate an English song into the same rhythm in Thai, as you can maybe imagine. And so they just rewrite them. They take the tune, completely rewrite the song. So yeah, we were singing "Great Is Thy Faithfulness." Lord knows what the Thai people were singing. I can't tell you. They're singing some praise to God. I know that. Does it have anything to do with great is thy faithfulness? I have no clue at all. And so again, they take what we give them and they make it work for them. And that really is the dream Mike and Sherry have. So let's keep more resort. We just want to impress you with where you could stay. This is Logan's favorite fruit.
It's not my favorite fruit.
Oh, I thought you kept going back.
Did they call
thought-
it?
No, I had
Did they
one.
call it a knot
Oh, okay.
or something? Knot.
I'm sorry. I take my slander back.
Anyway, you twist it open, and it's like a grape kind of.
Think the inside of a
center.
grape.
Yeah, like the inside of a grape.
A rounded nut that you have to.
Kind of like more like a pear, maybe, but.
Yeah. Well, there you go. All right, we can keep. Oh, here we go. It's John Cow's Say the Prayer of the Graduates being translated. You can go on.
The fruit.
Oh, wow.
Well, thank you.
Cool. Nice job. So this is part of our tourist day. The graduation ceremony came after our tourist day, I think. Am I right about that?
Yeah, this is at the butterfly.
Yeah, butterfly and flower garden. Yeah, butterflies. This is where the elephants start to come in. This is our raft tour that we got to go down. This is totally, all of this is just catering to tourists. Like, understand, this is not authentic Thai lived experience by any means. This is just catering to us on our day off. And so we tried to enjoy it and get in the spirit of things. Lolita, who's John's wife.
Just scoot in a little bit.
I don't know what they're doing.
Just scoot in a little bit.
Keep
Just
going
scoot
through
in a
all
little.
this.
Now, on ours,
Here we go.
All right, Alice.
There we go.
All right, Alice.
Yeah, Logan and I got the elephant that wanted to be in first, only it started like last, and so it like booked it through that river, man.
Yeah.
That was intimidating.
But
Yeah.
it got a little nerve-wracking a little further down the way because you go
It-
through the river and you go up a hill, and then you come back down to the river. Well, as it was going down, it evidently stepped on something. Their elephant did, and they make this noise, whenever they're distraught, and it was distraught, and it didn't want to go anymore. And I was a little nervous that they was
Yeah.
going to end up in the river.
I thought I was about
there,
to
but-
sit down in the yeah.
Yeah, Kevin was behind us, and his guy started yelling something, and then our guy's yelling something, and this elephant's yelling something. And
Those are big. Like they really are intimidating.
yeah, you don't realize how high up you are, but I had the pin pulled on the bar. I don't think I told you.
What?
He was ready to jump.
Yeah, I was ready to jump off the elephant.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, so that was. There's our caravan going up the hill before the aforementioned incident. Me trying to get a selfie with an elephant, I can't focus my camera well. So you can buy painting by
画
elephants.
是为了给大象捐丑募捐。我们不仅拯救闽南大象营的大象，还救救闽南乡所有的大象。大象画的话，每幅1000
I
铢。
bought one actually.
如果你想购买大象画的话，请联系看台右边画。
There we go. That's better. Right? There they are. Those are all the elephants paint. So yeah, completely touristy, but still cool. Anyway, yeah. So if you ever want one, I don't know if you can order online, but man, just saying.
You see their initials. That's where they initial.
Yes,
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
saying
We
an elephant
watched them
painted
paint it.
those. We watched them do it. You could buy the one they painted while you watched, but it was more expensive than one painted on a different day because tourists. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we were pretty obsessed with this ourselves, so I don't blame you at all. You want to talk about Karen's?
Yeah, long neck Karen is what they call, and they start at an extremely young age, and they have these. Is it brass? Is that
I
what
don't
it is? So, and they have these brass cuffs that go around the neck, and then you can also see down here around the legs and the wrists. And the purpose of that was to defend them as they grew up. However, the idea was every so often you added an extra ring until you reached, I think, 40 or 45, and then you just kept it on there till you died. And the thing that I learned is that their neck doesn't actually get longer. What happens is the muscles will actually start to be pushed down, and that's how they get the extended neck.
And so at this point, again, they've resign, or I don't want to say resign themselves, but they're a tourist attraction. You can go and see it, and they have, like, she's sitting selling stuff, right? Come see me and buy my stuff. And I'll be honest, I personally kind of struggled with that idea of them using their culture. I mean, in a way, it's all that, but this seemed personal to me somehow, so I actually struggled watching this one. It's just half. So Logan's got right. Photo op. Their shops. I want to skip ahead. I'm watching time. I want to see at least the last church we went to. So there are the ox carts. You just go through these. So after our touristy note, that was that's Chiang Mai, or was that Bangkok? Okay, so after Chiang Mai was done, when we were done with our touristy in the north and we'd gone to graduation, we flew all of 40 minutes back down to Bangkok where we had started. And this is where you will see, if Kevin put a photo, how nice this hotel was, and you will be jealous, and I'm sorry. Yes, it does. I was hoping no one would notice.
I tried it. It was really strong. That says anything.
Keep us moving.
Anyways.
Keep us moving. So we're back in Bangkok. That's one of their... Bangkok's a massive city. It's the size of New York, only spread out. They have multiple downtown skylines as you drive. It's massive, and that's where our last church that we visited was in Bangkok. You keep going. Ow. If you want to...
Can't see.
You want to make a pitch for possible investors?
So I need.
He doesn't want to leave me now. He doesn't want to leave me now.
Everybody wants to donate them. I also need investors so I can open up a hedgehog cafe, and it was very fun. Definitely a unique experience.
Can't see it though. There's one.
You had Mary and Sally.
I can't see it though. There's one.
Sally and Mary.
I can't see it though. There's one.
Logan loved this and has a business plan for anyone interested. But
Can't see it.
That's the cafe. So this is the last church, Prasiri, in Bangkok. And so we're back to not quite as urban as Pattaya, because this is, again, Bangkok is sprawly. And so this is pretty further out, but you're still very much in a city. We did a day camp here in the morning and the afternoon, which was fun because we hadn't planned on that. There was a miscommunication, and so we showed up ready for an afternoon, but had to get really creative. Also, there's no land because they're in a city, and so those relay games we'd been playing did not work so good. So this is what we call welcome to ministry moments, where you have to adapt, and we did pretty good in all of that. So let's see. These are some of the kids at that church. Same class as before, just different church. Lolita's teaching. Anyone can guess what song she's teaching? My God is so big, so strong. No? No one? All right, fine. Anyway, so these are kids singing the songs.
My God is so big, so strong and so mighty. There's nothing that God cannot do for you.
So if people want to stay and hear songs, we can do that. Part of the day camp, and so singing songs is a key. Chicken being grilled. Grilled on my left, grilled on my right. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. It's a great song. And then they did sing us a song that they had practiced. If you want to skip, I assume this. Okay. So this is just us at work in the last church we visited. Finally, so I've told people I felt like I was in one of those road trip movies, right? Where things go crazy and you're just following the characters along as they meet weird other characters and have mishaps, right? That's kind of how this felt to me. And if you've ever watched a road trip movie, at the very end, the circumstances align and all the characters from the movie show up at the same place, and there's like, that's how the movie ends, is right. That's what it felt like, because the last thing we did was go to a church. We didn't do a day camp. This was the last Sunday we were there, but in the evening they had a building dedication. This is a brand new church building, and they wanted to celebrate that. And again, playing the visiting dignitary, we were there. I preached in the morning, and so just so you know, just because your pastor was gone doesn't mean he wasn't working. I did preach, just like normal. And then back when everyone came back in the evening, we dedicated the building, but everyone came. People drove 8 hours for a building dedication. That's how big a deal this is to the Thai Christians. And so all the missionaries we had met came in, all the church leaders and pastors we had met came in, and it was like the end of a big road trip movie. This is our last day before we flew out.
And I think John had been there 4 years before, and they prayed over the rice field where the church is when they were there.
Yeah. My buddy Rob. There's me preaching. And preaching. I got into it.
Notice he come down here, he jumped off the stage. So.
And back on, thank you.
Oh, yes.
Kevin says I should preach more Pentecostal like I did then. They told me this is more a Pentecostal Methodist church, so you got to really get into it. So I did, and he thinks I should stick with it.
Oh, he got into it.
I did get into it, man. It was great. So now we've moved to the building dedication in the evening. There's May and there's Sherry.
So something else with this, I was sitting next to Kevin, and like I was telling you, these church services go they go on for a little bit longer than I'm used to. So it was about 2.5 hours ago, and then we left to go to McDonald's. Yeah, we did that.
We did.
Went and got some coffee to get refilled to come back to the building dedication. So we sit down, and I nudged Kevin, and I was like, I bet this is going to be like another 2.5 hours. So I turned to the girl behind me, and I was like, how long are building dedications? And she's like, well, at least 3 hours. And I was like, okay.
This is a big deal for them. And so the youth are doing not a play, what's the word I want? Kind of drama.
Yeah.
Showing us. So they, the youth did something, the kids did something. They had special speakers, which included John and the Morrisseys. That's Shelby Gillespie, who is the missionary in Isan, who's getting married next spring. And so you can kind of see the rest of the building dedication.
Can you go back?
But I want to see you.
Up top here is where they are building their children's sermon, and one of the children's wing, children's wing, and one of the things that we did is we each had some allocated funds that we wanted to donate
that you all had given us. Remember?
Yes, and
you
that
trusted
was,
each of us with 1/3 of the pot to use how we will.
Yes, and so all of this is because of you guys. So, and this church, it really did move me. Seeing these people donating their lives, donating wedding rings, donating, the clothes off of their back to get this thing done. And the last thing that they needed to work on was a place for the children. So my third went to this so that they could go ahead and get that finished for the kids.
You want to take
one of the great things there? They take ownership of it. We will donate to them, but they donate their time and their own funds. Like I said, some of them even sold their wedding rings, so this could be
We
possible.
cannot match them for generosity. We may give more, but we cannot match them for generosity. You want to share about, real quick before we wrap up, what your and my money went to and what the Morrisseys are planning?
And Chris and I separately talked a lot with Mike and Sherry Morrissey about exactly what they needed over there, because they've been there, they've been on the ground, they know what works and what hasn't worked as well, and teaching and training the pastors in this area is paramount, because you get them in there, you get the Thai people, they're the better evangelists. We're foreigners, that they don't, what do they call us,
Prongs.
Yeah.
But not disrespectful, but their own people are they're amazing missionaries, because once they receive Jesus, they know the gift that they've been given, and they're eager to share it. The last day we were doing our prayer walks, and they didn't want to stop. It was very hot, and we'd went a long way, and they wanted to go another round.
prayer matters. And so what we asked Mike and Sherry was, what's the next step? And they said, well, we're perfectly happy to drive 6-8 hours. If you couldn't tell, we drove a lot. Church to church to church to train them and equip them. But A, that's hard on us. We're getting older. B, it's not actually a good long-term strategy because then the pastors and laity don't connect with each other. Well, it's only a building dedication like this that really draws them together. And so they said, we need a centralized location where we can have these pastors and laity come in, where we can offer training and education and all sorts of stuff, and where they can network so they can go back encouraged by each other. And that's the next step in launching a truly independent Thai church. And so Kevin and I, again, independently of each other, found that out, and we said that's where we want our money to go. And so 2/3 of what you donated in excess of travel costs went to that future training center. Logan opted to donate his 1/3 to complete the children and youth wing in the building we dedicated. So,
But the area they picked, they've thought it out. It's next to an airport, and actually, in Thailand, you can round trip air cheaper and a lot quicker than you can drive to these places. The airfare within Thailand was really inexpensive.
Yep. This is all building dedication. You just go through this a little bit at a time. Again, you look at the dress, look at the formality, look how important this is to them, and keep going. They're very proud of those doors, and I don't know if Kevin put in a picture, their chandeliers, something else. They said we want people to know how much glory God has, and so we want a chandelier that tells people how much glory God has.
And these clothing, they said, weren't that expensive, but they had to plan them out ahead, and they ordered them from China. And if you've heard of a slow boat from China, that's actually how they came.
Yeah. Keep going. Is that it? Oh, okay. So we wanted to pull up a map for you. Here we go. And so there's Thailand there. You see it bordered by Cambodia and Laos and Myanmar at the top there. And so we really were, Bangkok is the second one from the bottom. We drove the first night we got in all the way down to Pattaya, down there. We had to drive back and all the way out to Karat, which was this, I believe, the special needs blessing home. I've been trying to come up with that name this whole time. It's Karat. Isan was the second, more rural blessing home. And then all the way, stopping at a rural church somewhere, not where the dot is, but just somewhere along there, all the way to Chiang Mai, where we did our tourism and where the seminary graduation was in the south, and then flew from there all the way back to Bangkok, and from Bangkok out from there. So a lot of driving.
And the roads around Bangkok were really nice. And when we first got there, I was like, wow, this is nice infrastructure. Then we got out in the other rural areas, and we actually one of them, we had a tire on one of the vans that didn't make it because of the potholes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there are more stories we could tell, but we wanted to keep the focus on what the Thailand Methodist Mission is doing and what the state of the Thai church. And so I'm going to be sensitive. It's been 1:05 since we started, which we had to start late. And so I want to say one more thing, and then if you want to stay for questions, I'm good with it. If you two are willing to stay and answer questions for a little while, but if you have to get home and do things, I totally understand. But the last thing, again, you heard what this trip is. It's not us going and building a house. It's not us going and running VBS. I mean, we did day camps, but again, it was more having fun with kids so that the Thai preachers could actually deliver the gospel to them, right? And so we weren't contributing anything directly. We were encouraging them, and you've heard just how important that is to them, and we were learning. I told Kevin and Logan, our job starts when we get back. We're doing our job right now, and all three of us will continue to advocate for Thailand and to share about Thailand just in an ongoing way as we move forward. That really is our job. And so, me personally, I don't need to go back anytime soon. I don't feel a need to. 5-10 years, the landscape has changed. Maybe I'll go back then. I don't need to go next year. There's a team going, I think, next October, if not then the following. I don't need to go to that. Kevin, Logan, if you want to, by all means, but, I don't feel you to.
I feel the same way, that it was awesome experience, and it was definitely worthwhile for us to go, but we have seen, and I feel like we found out how we can best help them, which is through prayers and through helping them get that leadership center.
So the question is, if the Kentucky Conference still wants to support the Thailand Methodist Mission, and we do, And if our local church at Somerset wants to support the Thailand Methodist Mission and the Thai church, and we do, who's going to go next time? And I mean that. I don't want to go. These two don't need to go. We've learned. We've seen it. We want to hand that baton off. And so in this coming year, or maybe at latest the year after, before then, tell me. If that's on your heart, if you want to go, if you want to see what's going on there, if you want to come back and advocate for the Thai church, I'm going to want to know. I'm not going to ask volunteers. This isn't an altar call. I want you thinking about this one. But that's going to be my question in the coming year and the year after that. Who's going to go next? And I don't need many. 2, 3. I don't want someone to go all by themselves from our church. That was hard on Kim, I think. But 2, 3 people is all I need. So in the coming months, be in prayer for that. And by all means, get a hold of me or one of these two guys if you ever feel like that. But that's the only thing I want to end on. Again, we can ask questions, but if you all need to get out of here, I totally understand that. Thanks for being patient with us. And thanks for coming. We really, really appreciate it. I'm going to pull this. Can we get someone who knows the lights? Flip the lights on so we can all see each other. Again, if people have questions, I want you to have the opportunity to ask them. There we go. There it is. Very nice. All right. Yes, ma'am. Yes. That's a very common thought. Is their special needs because of something they did in a past life. And so while they don't tend to abandon them, that's extreme. There's just not a whole lot of people advocating for special needs programs, schools, or workers. And so that's, the Christians do. Particularly Blessing Home Karat. That is what they are all about, and they're doing a fantastic job. So welcome to the question you are free to ask me anytime you want. Are we going to contribute to all of this? That's a great question, church. I don't have the answer. That's not my job. Yeah. No, not particularly. So there are the gods. Buddhism has 1 billion plus gods. Spirits are a little bit different. The impression I got, and don't quote me on this and correct me, guys, if I'm off base, think more like kind of wood nymphy type creatures, like not gods, but also not ancestors, particularly like just spirits, just things that move around and do mischief at times, and good spirits, bad spirit. Yeah, it was this concept that got brought into Thailand when Buddhism was already established and just kind of spread everywhere. So, yeah, I'd love to talk to a Buddhist monk about what did you do with that, but.
And they would leave open containers of food and open containers of drinks as well for the spirits so that they could eat and drink as well.
Every morning. Oh, yeah.
They want to gain merit.
We got a taste of just about everything. And so, again, that last hotel, super swanky. But as we visited where the silkworms were, that is pretty darn near subsistence living by some of the Christians there.
Some years ago, our family was involved in helping educate a couple of girls.
Oh, okay.
They had no other means
Yeah.
to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And the money that was sent was used for like cattle or sheep or chickens or whatever. And they grew this and it provided money for them to get their education.
Mm-hmm. Again, the education piece is primarily through those blessing homes by bringing kids in and giving them a space where they're off the street and they're able to learn. The only exception to that would be the 2 women in Blessing Home Karat who are advocating for special needs kids. They're involved in the education system as part of that. And so it's not working on one-on-one basis. It's providing homes where kids can learn, and it's advocating with the education systems that already exist. No, Thailand does have public education. Yeah.
Yes, and I think they're required to go to like the ninth grade.
Yeah.
And that just increased. It wasn't
Right.
always ninth grade.
Yeah. So their blessing homes is primarily younger children before that, and then the special needs, again, that's why they're advocating in the schools, because there are public schools to advocate in. So, yes, Charles. Did they tell us that?
They never gave us that statistic, and that's one of the things that Mike and Sherry talked about is, we over in Thailand, they're not calling themselves, necessarily Methodist or Baptist or evangelistic or, at this point, it's so
People wouldn't know what
sparse
that was.
that, we're just trying to all be a big family together.
I could find info. So you did see at each of the churches, you saw the cross and flame. Like they are United Methodist churches. They're part of our connection. And so, we can count the number of those compared to churches in other places. But yeah, a lot of the week-to-week stuff, that I'm trying to think the seminary, they had 12 or 15 graduates and 4 were Methodist pastors who the Morrissey sponsored to go through seminary. I don't know how typical that ratio would be, but it's probably around there. Presbyterian Church is the other one that's done a whole lot within Thailand, and then a few Pentecostal denominations. And so those are your main groups that have been working in Thailand. Again, all the other ones have been in the north, which is much more open to religious diversity, relatively speaking. And Methodist, we've deliberately chosen to go south. And so I'm sure that's affected the numbers as well, because of where we've chosen to do our work.
And Mike and Sherry, they were saying that, they have the people that are wanting to be trained, so that's not the problem. They're ready to be trained and go out in these areas where there's not any churches. So.
By the way, 1% Christian, 4% Muslim, mostly in the south, 95 Buddhist. Other questions? I personally, so this is, I'm just speaking for me. I personally differentiate between what I call systemic persecution, where formal institutions, be they governments or religions, are actively suppressing another religion, and that kind of social ostracism, where individuals of one faith are kind of pushed to the side or excluded by just the very nature of things, and probably, yeah, especially in adolescence, definitely made fun of for who they are. To me, the first is what I mean by persecution, and the second is just kind of being socially ostracized in a culture. So that's how I use those terms. So.
And kind of I would say an example would be the king, for instance. So you've got the king of Thailand, and that's a very touchy subject over there. There are pictures of the king everywhere. I mean, on highways, on roadways, on billboards, and if you talked against the king, like let's say you weren't really fond of him and you said he was okay, they'll just go ahead and send you to jail. That's just all there is to it. You just go to jail. And
They actually warned us not to put anything on social media once we got back, because the Morseys could still get in trouble for something we said because we were connected.
right. And so in that sense, if you have an opinion about the king, it better just be that you like him. But you can have an opinion on a religion like Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
You're allowed to like it or not like it.
This is deep enough into our social media feed. I'm feeling okay by it, but that red flag, as soon as you brought it up, I was like, hey, this is online, dude. I think you're good, but that's just the level of sensitivity we're talking about. If someone in Thailand did see this video and hear us tie the Morseys to anything critical, the Morseys would probably be kicked out or imprisoned. I think the sentence is 15 years. So that is one area you have to be deeply sensitive to. Or any elected, any elected official. I mean, be proud of your right to be critical of people in power, and use it when appropriate. And that's literally all I'm going to say about that. Thank you very much. Use it where you feel is appropriate. The Monkey Temple, yes, it is still technically, it's a tourist place, but it is still, well, not the old one, but there's the old one, and then there's another one across the street, and it's still a formal temple. Other than that, we walked past a lot of them to go inside. I don't know. I didn't hear everyone say don't, but I kind of got the impression that was not wise.
I went to one.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did down in Bangkok. I went with Pam and Jim. Yeah, and you saw Jim was one of the ones.
He was my mentor.
Yeah, he
Colin.
was. his mentor. And so the three of us did go to one, and we didn't walk inside, but we walked around it, and we went to the front doors, which were open, and looked in it. And they had a sign of different baht amounts, which is the currency that you could pay that would relieve certain amounts of pressure off of you. And it would range anywhere between, a couple dollars up through the highest amount was 1.5 million baht, which is the equivalent of
500,000.
yeah, pretty close. So almost $500,000 that you can pay to say sorry.
And you saw, I mean, those prayer walks. Not, we'll do them in our American church, but they're not very common. But over there, they love them because it's deeply meaningful to the Christians, and it often gives them something to share with the people in their neighborhood. Say, hey, did you know these people, we walked around your neighborhood and we were praying for you yesterday? Why in the world would you? Yeah. So yeah, finding those ways of sharing the gospel, and you saw the pictures of May's husband. What's his name?
Teddy.
Teddy. Again, finding those ways like he was about making it make sense. We had a bus driver who'd been driving Thailand Methodist for years, and he was standing looking through a window as Teddy shared, and he went up to Mike later. He said, where's that been? Like, why haven't I heard that? Like, he'd been with the Methodists the whole time, but nothing they'd been able to say had really dug deep. But when Teddy shared it in a way that made sense to Thailand Buddhists, this bus driver was like, why haven't, where, like, they had to, we didn't get to see the end of that story, but they had a nice long conversation. And that's because, again, empowering a Thai church to be Thai and to use its own language, to use its own music, to use its own worship practices. That's the goal.
And in their own words, I met a young man that we were walking through, I don't know, we were down in Bangkok, and he came up to me. I was with the pastor. We were looking for some items, and he said, he'd come up to me, he knew some English. He said, I'm on fire, for God. And they were. I mean, they want their fellow, the Thai Christians are trying to reach the other Thai because they know what they've received.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Other questions? Yes, sir. I didn't get to see curriculum, but just from picking up conversations, it's been modeled off of Western programs, because what else would they use? And so it's pretty well equivalent. I want to say 3 years is how long it took them, which is fairly 3-4 years is normal in America. So no, it's just as rigorous. They have to, and it's hard on them because they're having to travel, most of them, and then they'll be sent out to places. It's rough. What else? So it depends on so the seminary graduates, it depends on who they're affiliated with. The Methodists will obviously work with Mike and Sherry about where to plant a next church and what resources they need and that kind of stuff. The other graduates are almost certainly affiliated with some American or European denomination, and we'll be having similar conversations. Now, all those different denominations do work together, right? If only 25% of counties has a church, you don't want to send 2 seminary graduates to the same county. That's like, let's spread them out. And so, there is a whole lot of collaboration, but that's who they're working with as far as church planning. So, do you have something else? No. They read from their Thai Bibles, but it doesn't say translated from this. They don't care. That doesn't matter to them. And again, my guess it would be depend on which denomination they're affiliated with. I'm guessing Thailand Methodist Mission uses a particular Bible. Maybe they share some. If one group got there first and there's no theological objection, why do the same work twice? But I'm guessing again it traces to who worked with you from the beginning. And I'm speculating a little bit on all of that, but that was kind of the vibe I was picking up. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, if you would, I want to pray one more time for our brothers and sisters in Thailand. God, I'm so grateful that your children live the world over. God, that to you, you are the God of every place, of every nation, of every people, and every culture. And I'm grateful that, God, you did not wait on us, that you were at work among the people of Thailand long before the first missionary arrived, that you were doing all in your power, your amazing power to turn their hearts to you, to implant in their minds the amazing reality of grace, so that when missionaries did show up, God, they were helping your work, not starting something new. And so, God, I give you thanks for the fruit that has been born in Thailand, for the churches, pastors, lay leaders that have been raised up, the churches that have been planted. I am so grateful, God, that we are seeing a Thai church that is truly Thai. And God, I look forward as they grow to having them be brothers and sisters in our faith and to teach us so many things that, God, have been hidden from us until they are able to come and share their experience. And so, God, I simply pray that you would keep our two churches close, that you would allow us to support them in the ways that make the most sense, and that, God, they would be able to support and teach us in ways we can't even imagine right now. So, God, I commit these Thai Christians to your care. I commit each of us in this place to your care. God, you know what you've laid on our heart. You know where you're guiding us. Help us have humble and open spirits, that we would be sensitive to it. I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you all. Be free.